So being here today is kind of fun for me. I had a 35 plus year career in education, and about 25 of that I was a leader in schools, so I was doing lots of trainings. So it's kind of fun to come back here one more time and hang up the hats and do something else. So thank you for being with us today. Today's topic, as you can see, is called Working with Difficult Individuals, Part 2. We did one session. How many of you were here the first time from that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So about half of you were here. So it will be some review of that material, some new knowledge as well. The goal is that hopefully you'll learn some things that will help you. I know so much of our talk and we do all this stuff is all about how it's going to help us professionally. But the reality is all this stuff we've done, all the trainings really are going to help you as a person, as an individual, and then be a better person in the world. So if you want to be a better Christian, if you want to be a better father, if you want to be a better mother, if you want to be a better partner, if you want to be a better colleague, all the trainings we've had, all of them, are helping you do that. And I love that as an educator, as a person, how my mind works, because I love the interconnected of all. How it all interconnects. So today's training, yes, we're looking how to deal with difficult people, but obviously it's going to apply to you personally in all facets of your life. And so hopefully you will learn some things, explore some new ideas, and get something out of it. So we have until 12:55. If you need more food, please just get up. You rest 12:55, we're going to stop and do a quick survey. Today's information comes from a lot of different sources. Obviously, when I was in schools, we were doing this type of training for years as well. I participated in all the trainings here at Salvation Army, so I've learned a lot through all those different trainings. I have a book here that really helps frame some of the conversation that we're doing today about how our brains really work and how rational they really are, and how we can then learn to control our brains to be better people, and also obviously to learn to work with difficult people. And then most recently I've hooked up with Ryan Dowd, who does homeless services training. And he has got some great programming. If you haven't had the opportunity to do it, I just took one from him on, he was dealing with difficult people or different conflict or something like that. And then also, just so you know, I took another one from Pryor just recently. And Pryor had a great one too on how to deal with conflict. So I'm bringing in sources from all those places. Famous login. Alright, so let's begin. Alright, so again, starting off, we have to understand the difficult person. It all, again, we have them all of our life, right? You are a difficult person, your friend is a difficult person, your neighbor, your partner, your colleague. Everybody at some point is a difficult person. Okay, so the techniques are no different for any of those relationships. How do you try to go about being a better person and managing that? Praise at one point said it's someone who is unaccountable for actions, who resists change, unresponsive to feedback. They're poor performers, obviously that would be a work person. They're uncooperative, can be anyone, okay? They can also be, here's some of the words that I think are helpful for you to understand as you deal with conflict or difficult people or your own emotions, is you can start to identify that those people feel callous, they don't really care, they feel like they're, oh, I'm so good, I'm crown jokes. They can be sort of aggressive to you. They may act suspicious. Oh, why are you doing this? What's this? How come this? They may be bitter, feel overbearing, needy, and emotional. So these are some more characteristics. They can be angry, defensive, feel negative, prone to be draining, right? Isn't that a good one? When you're dealing with angry people, you feel, oh man, I feel so drained afterwards. Challenging to work with, unwilling to make small changes, stubborn, or unreasonable. It's just like that. Right? Difficult person. Alright. So we did this last time, but let's just do this again. Think about a difficult person in your life. Put it in your brain. Stay with it for 30 seconds. And then think about how is your body feeling? And then maybe what are emotions coming up as you think about that person? So give that another 30 seconds. Think about the person or persons. How's your body feeling? What emotions are coming up? Why is that understanding important? What's your guess? Why is that important to know that? How you're feeling, what emotion you're experiencing. Why do you think that's important? Correct. It'll impact your interactions with them. And once you know them, you might then be able to do something with those. So if I'm feeling angry at that person, or if I'm feeling disappointed in that person, whatever it is, right? Oh, I'm angry. Okay, so then how am I going to manage my anger and work with the person? Am I just going to let it all go? Thank you. Very helpful. So what do we do? So that's important, is to know where you are. So again, here's some words, again, that you can use to help you when you're dealing with difficult people to know and recognize. You may feel helpless, especially when you're a coworker, colleague that you have to deal with. You can't try, you feel helpless. Misunderstood, disrespected, that's a big one, especially with clients, right? Clients is a big one, disrespect. Disrespected all the time. Victimized, unacknowledged, judged, angry, annoyed, impatient. Okay, so all of those emotions you're going to experience when you're dealing with difficult people, difficult situations. So, the first thing to do is to recognize, okay, the moment. So again, difficult people can be a one-time thing. Can be you go to the sales, you're checking out this at the grocery store, and the sales clerk's not very friendly, he's giving you a hard time, or he's giving you a hard time. So that's a one-time. So you have to examine this. What about the situation? Some disagreements happen through no fault of either the person. It just happens. Last night I was at my table tennis. There's an old dude there who's a grumpy old guy. And there's a young kid there, a college student, who plays for their college team. Nice guy. And he's playing this grumpy old guy, and a guy who's yelling. And the poor kid, he did a really good job. He just sort of walked away from the guy and just said, not to deal with it. So that person is always there, always around the person, and you're going to see those people. Difficult situations may cause us to look at the fault in others when circumstances lie outside the other person's control, right? You often see now, right? You start blaming somebody, the guy who cuts you off on the road, or you're an Indian driver, or something. And maybe there's a reason. Who knows? We don't know. Maybe they just had a convulsion and there's, moving in your lane. We don't know. Right? So we make those situations. So again, a good rule of thumb is always to stay focused on the person, not the problem. Too often our minds go to the issue rather than the person, especially if you have partners in your life where you go, and it's always about the problem rather than just focus on the person. What can that do to change the nature of the conversation, the nature of the relationship, the nature of the resolution? This thing has always been intriguing to me my whole life. Jesus said, love your neighbor. One of his biggest commandments. Do we do it very well? No, we don't. So it's always fascinating to me. Well, how come we can't do this? What's so hard about this? And we all know it's not easy. So let's explore some reasons why it's difficult. And maybe the knowledge will help you do a better job. And maybe we can live out that tenet a little bit more fully. So the first thing to understand in all these things is it really about the other person, or is it really about me? And why is that important? What's so important about knowing that? Can I control the other person? Anybody control anybody in this room? Anybody what? All of you? Alright, so we can't control others, so we better focus on ourselves. We need to focus back on ourselves. So what can I do? That's all you can do in your whole life, right? If you're an addict or anything, all you can do is always come back to yourself. What can I do? And one of the things that we do, particularly in the work world, is we get stuck. We label how that person is. So when that person comes to you, what do you automatically think? Oh, they screwed up because they always screw up. Right? I do that all the time. Poor David is the brunt of that, just so you know. But I always self-correct. Oh, wait a minute. It's like, no, what was I thinking? Okay? So you have to really be aware. And just because I'm talking about it, I'm always smiling at that. It doesn't mean that I'm the expert in this and I can do this. God just teaches this. Alright. Again, you can't control others, so the global maxim that I've studied in a history major, master's, the Greek said, know thyself. And once you do that, again, you might be a better person, you might be a better Christian, you might be a better father, you might be a better colleague, you might be a better citizen in our world. Alright, so what makes it hard? What makes it hard? First of all, obviously how we're raised. Our backgrounds, okay? All those childhood experiences, psychologists tell us how it impacts our brain. It's gonna. There's no. One of the things I used to tell parents in my school, our number one job as parents is not to screw them up as much as we can. It's our number one job because we will mess them up. as parents. To some degree, right? Just because we're humans, that's how it all works. Then, traumas. The research, if you're, in Sydney's world, the anti-trafficking world, they know that traumas seriously impact the way your brain works. In fact, I was reading a recent study, homeless individuals, it's like 50% have had severe trauma in their life, and like 30% of that had really extreme trauma in their life. And those traumas are typically rooted in childhood things, abuse, sexual abuse, poverty, things like that, that you have in your youth. There's always obviously other traumas, but the major ones, and we'll see what impact that has. And then the way our brain works, psychologists have figured out that we're not as rational as we think we are. Ollie thinks he's very rational, but we're not as rational even as Ollie thinks he is. Okay? And it's because the way our brain works, the way that we develop, the way that we had to run away from the lions and the tigers, and we have two pieces in our brain. One is called the prefrontal cortex, located about here. And in the back, you have what's called the amygdala, a much bigger thing. The amygdala is an area of your brain where all your fear and flight response goes to. Your prefrontal cortex up here balances that. It's the rational part. Do I really need to run from that tiger, or is that just a cutout tiger? Right? So that is what in the brain has a hard time going back and forth between them. So, did I switch something? Oh, yeah, I just do this one. So I just want to go back to traumas. We'll talk about the other one. So traumas, again, this one is the most difficult one. This one rewires your brain. So as a child who has significant trauma, it rewires your brain. And you can't fully function like others until you deal with that. And typically the best way is through some sort of therapy, because otherwise you're just going to continue to have that trauma control you. And those are significant. I mean, having sex abuse as a child, whatever, it's going to significantly impact you. All right, so then the others, we just want to talk now about the amygdala a little bit. This is from Ryan Dowd. This is a training I went to recently. You might take you one pass on that. You're welcome.
I don't know. I absolutely don't know.
All right. So if you just want to look at page 1. This training that Ryan did is on the nature of conflict. So he's really talking about for case managers, ambassadors who are working in the homeless environment. You're dealing with conflict all the time. But it applies to that jump probably does. So you can see that second picture there, it talks about the prefrontal cortex. So the prefrontal is large, and the amygdala in the back is there. And the way that you get into conflict is you can remain calm or you can go to emotional distress. And it's all based on how you balance those two things in your brain. Okay? So when you are in your amygdala space in your brain, You've got an increased heart rate, you've got acid breathing, you're holding your breath, you're not doing deep breathing from your stomach. You got tunnel vision, you got flush face, like that depends how far you're into your amygdala, right? And then behavioral, when you're in your prefrontal, you can stop and think. Right? So many of us, you know, get those quick emails out. You didn't stop and think. That's who's going straight to the amygdala. Oh, Major Kim sent me an email. I better respond to Major Kim right now.
I'm literally having a dealing with difficult people thing right now.
Exactly. All right, so the next page, again, shows a little bit more how in a difficult situation, when you deal with difficult people, if you are in the amygdala part of your brain, you're not going to be effective. So we have to learn how to get out of our fear and flight to our prefrontal cortex. Brain is what we need to do. So going to the last, second to last page, the third page, it starts with cognitive strategies. So what can you do? What can you do when you're in your prefrontal cortex? Because if you're in your amygdala, you're not using your brain. So that's all the blue area, right? So you can reframe how you see the person, right? So when David walks in, I'm reframe. Hey, it's David. It's not David, it's David. That's it. Labeling. Try to understand where you're coming from. What's upsetting you about that person? That's one thing I've learned as a obviously. What is really upsetting you about that person, that colleague, that coworker, that partner? What's the core of it? What is the core? So recently, again, I'm to David, and also that's most crazy being aggravated. But he's been making mistakes. But the mistakes don't bother me anymore. Okay, make a mistake. What bothers me is that he's not thinking. He's not in the right space that he was, a year ago when he first got out of recovery. He's not in a proper place. None of that. So that's what I am upset about. So that's what I address. I don't address, oh, you did this. I address that other space. Does that make sense? So that's what helps you. We also get so many ambassadors in here, those who work with clients. So, get some physical tools. And if you ever worked in a shelter and you've heard, it's not easy. People are yelling all day long. So you need tools to help you, right? And so they talk about getting some grounding tools. Coming up to Johnny's going to yell at me again because he did something. So what? I need something. What can I grab a rock? Can I grab a cross? Can I grab whatever I have that might help me? Okay, wait, remember. Let's reframe, take a step back. He's not having me, whatever, right? So using those are effective. Finding something that might help you do that. And then breathe. Everybody knows about diaphragmatic breathing, right? We often breathe way too deeply from our chest wall. We don't breathe from our stomach. And if you breathe from your stomach, you can calm yourself. Smokers often are breathing from their stomach. That's why they like it. Because it's causing diaphragmatic breathing. It's kind of interesting. They're getting a positive from it. So for right now, I'm just going to try it because again, you can use it any time. Use it all day long. You're in a bad space. Go ahead, everybody just try it for 30 seconds. In through your nose, and out through your mouth, from your diaphragm, not from your chest. So if you did it, I hope you've got your body decompressible. And it will do that. So if you know you're going into a meeting with a colleague that you know you might react or be, it could be conflict, start meditating before you walk in. Get your body in the right space before you walk in. You'll do a better job. So then the last learning piece is to understand how the brain does work cognitively, how the different biases that social scientists have found that sort of then makes us go in a certain direction. Because, again, it's an amygdala response. Advertising is a great at. That's what all advertising is about, is to get you to the amygdala, to buy something. That's what all it is. So they're smart about it, how they do it. Gambling has the same thing, how you set up a gambling thing. So, cognitive biases are these mental shortcuts that the social scientists have figured out, found out that we have. But often they result in inaccurate or irrational ways. Our brain wants to process quickly. Again, that was because the lions were running after us. We had to move quickly. You don't talk about that lion trying to eat us? No, you got to move quickly. So there are different types of biases. We have what's called anchoring bias, we've got framing biases, we've got a loss aversion bias, we have confirmation bias. That's a big one in our social media world right now, is because if you just read what you've already believed, you're just reconfirming what you heard or believed. If you don't hear different things, then you're just going to stay in that same loop. So just reconfirms what you're doing. Self-serving bias, I talked about that one. All of this, most of this, think we do better than we are. That's just the nature of it. Oh, yeah, I do this well. Yeah, and we always go to that space. All right, so I got some, wrong way. All right, so I'm going to talk about the framing effect real quick. And I'm just going to let him write about it. It's just a little short passage, and it's talking about gambling and the effects of loss versus the other way around, how it impacts how we decide. So just read the front and back. Where it says start, A, 2, just go down, next page, go back. And see if this is something you can relate to. Alright. So if you look at that, so the gambling was what? You had, the first one was you had a 40% chance of winning the money, right? And most people just took that. However, in the second option, what happened? They reversed it, but however, the outcome was the same. No matter what, you get the same deal. Just how it's said to you. Same thing with, 85% lean meat, 2% milk. Decaf coffee is, 95% decaf. If they say that, I learned in college. caffeine, coffee's already like 98% caffeine free. So it's not getting caffeine in it, and then we do what do you do? Or get a little caffeine in it. So that's for decaf. So understanding how our brain works, and that's what advertising, gambling, guys who sell in homes, things like that, they use that to get you back to your amygdala. And so the goal is to learn whatever the emotions you're feeling, try to then come out of the amygdala back into the prefrontal cortex. That was number one. This next one is talking about, again, for those of us that work with clients that have difficulties. You can see that they study the data is going to be of 4-year-olds and how well they were able to control their amygdala or the prefrontal cortex. It's a famous study where they had 4-year-olds who could get a marshmallow.
No,
But if you waited a minute,
too much.
you get 2 marshmallows. That's a 4-year-old kid. And then they would just study them and who could stay a minute longer and who couldn't. But then what they found out later on, too, is that they did that study when they grew up as well. And they found out that their ability to manage between their amygdala and prefrontal cortex, self-control, resilience, stayed pretty much the same. And those that were there continued to have difficulties in life. Because they were making, they were always staying in their amygdala. And so many of our homeless folks, they've been in their amygdala from day one. From traumas, whatever they've had in their life, they have stayed in there, and it's made it impossible to bring them out of it. So go ahead and read this one real quick. Summarize it real quick for you. Yeah. So again, the self-control. We need that in our lives for everything, don't we? If you want to be a more prayerful person, you need self-control. If you want to eat less food, I need self-control. If I want to be a faithful partner, do I need self-control? So learning how we operate and then understanding ourselves, and then adopting strategies will help you become a better person. So the little kids close their eyes, they put their hands in their pockets, whatever they needed to do to wait 1 minute. Because that amygdala was fired up for 1 minute. If I adopt something, if I breathe, if I walk away, if I open up my Bible, all of that will get me out of my amygdala. And I only need to do it for a couple minutes. And then I can get back to here. All right? So, just in summary, reflection, self-knowledge, using therapy, fast forward with deep traumas. Be aware of your cognitive bias. You can understand people's strengths. That's one thing that we've learned here is understand that we all have different strengths, and that's really helpful as you frame and talk. Oh yeah, that person's really good at this. Maybe they're not going to be good at that, but that's just the way they are. Nothing you can do about it. Not passing judgment and guilt, perspective, making sure you get enough sleep, nutrition, exercise, self-care, being a better active listener, building reports, and then the habits we just talked about. Creating that in your life if you want to try something. So, that's the end of my conversation. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.